remind you that lunch begins at 11:30 at the Great Hall. Is that correct? Even though it says 12 in the program, it's a very long program because it's the business lunch. It's part of your package, so please come. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Joan Brehm. I've known her for a long time. First meeting her when she was a grad student. We were observing and interacting with her as an active professional member of several organizations to which we belong. I just want to say that she's a person of substance. Someone who takes the role as educated scholar and citizen very seriously. Just one small example may help clarify this for everyone. In the middle of preparing for these meetings, Joan and her daughter, who serve as a rescue team, were dispatched to Joplin, Missouri, to help in the aftermath of that terrible storm. She went immediately. This is what she and her dog do. This is who Joan is.
Thank you, Al, very much. I wasn't expecting that. I have the amazing pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker for today. I've known Tara Brockman since 2003 when I started at Illinois State University. Tara Brockman is the founder of the Land Connection, an educational nonprofit working to ensure that more Illinois farmland will grow local foods for our tables. Tara Brockman is also a speaker and author, most recently of The Seasons of Henry's Farm, which takes the reader through many micro-seasons on her brother Henry's sustainable, diverse vegetable farm in central Illinois. She's a member of a very remarkable farming family. She's a nuanced observer, a fierce advocate for, and a gifted writer and speaker about sustainable agriculture. She comes at her subject from unexpected angles, combining her experience growing up as one of the fourth generation of an Illinois farm family with her expertise in biology, ecology, literature, philosophy, and history. And I want to just point out that following her keynote address, she will have a table in the lobby area so you can interact with her. She has some of her books available for people, as well as some other materials. With that, I'd like to welcome Tara Brockman.
Thanks, Joan. It is an honor to be here. I actually had the honor and pleasure yesterday of being on one of those tours. It was an excellent tour of a local Wisconsin grass-fed beef farm, and I got to go to Aldo Leopold's shack, which I have not been to, and I got to see one of your neighborhoods here in Madison and the wonderful things that communities are doing. So I am thrilled to be here today. And I just wanted to say a couple things, because if I don't say them now, I'm going to forget. I do have books after the talk, as Joan said, my own book and a book of my brother Henry's, a small booklet. I also have freebies. Every year we do a calendar with the Land Connection, our nonprofit, and the calendar basically is annotated about what's happening at different times of year in the garden. So whether you're a gardener or just like farmers markets, we have extra calendars that I don't want to throw away. So if you don't have a calendar yet and want 6 months of knowing what's happening on farms and at your farmers market, please pick up a calendar for free. And I also have some magazines out there that I write for Edible Chicago. I know you have Edible Madison and a lot of other edible communities. So stop by the table, say hi, get some material about Land Connection if you want. I'll sign a book for you. The other thing I wanted to say before I get going is, was there one other thing I wanted to say? That I came to this talk here today because Joan asked me to. And at that time, I had never heard of the ISSRM, I confess. But I looked it up and I read about it, and then I actually got to meet some people yesterday on the tour, and I'm very, very impressed, I must say, about this interdisciplinary group and the things you're concerned about, the fact that you care about our natural resources. And so when I sat down to do this talk, I thought, what am I going to write about? I'm not a sociologist, I'm not a resource manager. And as time went on, especially the past few days, I find I have too much to say. And so I'm going to race through some parts of this, but I want you to know that I'm going to try to leave time for questions, so if you have a question afterwards, please raise your hand. If we don't have time, please come to the table outside, and we'll talk during the break. I think that's my introductory comment part of things. So like I said, when Joan asked me to come here, I thought, what do I know about resources, about natural resources. What do I know about sociology? But then I remembered a quote, and I read a lot. I've read a lot ever since I was 4 years old, and then I was an English major, so I read more. But I remembered a quote, because all these things float in my mind, and they're like friends of mine, even though these people are dead. And it was Thomas Merton. How many people know Thomas Merton? Yeah, excellent, the Catholic theologian. He wrote, "From the moment you put a piece of bread in your mouth, you are part of the world. Who grew the wheat? Who made the bread? You are in relationship with all who brought it to the table." And suddenly I thought, okay, I do farms, I do families, I do how it comes to the table. That's the work I do with the Land Connection, trying to save farmland and trying to get new farmers and trying to connect people with local food. So I thought, okay, that's about resources. You are part of the world, and that's about the society, bringing it to the table. And so when I went out to, I came here yesterday, and for the tour, I went to get something to eat. I happened to go to perhaps the best coffee shop, cafe in all of Madison, maybe, Bradbury's. How many people know that? So I sat, they brought to me this beautiful crepe that had, it was like a lightly fried egg, and it had the savory crepe, and it had some little bit of greens, you know, different salad greens, spicy greens, and it had some prosciutto. So I cracked open the egg. It was the most beautiful egg, just very lightly done with a film on top, you know, that you touch it and the yolk spills out like liquid gold. And I started to eat, and I started to think, oh my God, this is really great food. So I asked the people who served it to me, I said, where did this egg come from? And they said, Pecatonica Valley Farms. And I said, where did this prosciutto come from? And they said, La Quercia, which is in Iowa, near Des Moines. I happen to have visited La Quercia. It means the oak in Italian. And then I learned about every single thing that I was eating, and I learned that the mixed greens were from Garden to Bee, the prosciutto was from La Quercia, the crepe was made of flour grown and milled by Crest Springs in Blue Mountains, Wisconsin. The milk that was in the crepe was from Sassy Cow, which we drove by yesterday, 20 miles from here. And my coffee also had Sassy Cow milk, and it was roasted by Kickapoo Coffee. So suddenly I realized Thomas Merton had said, I was in relationship with all of those people and all of those families who brought me that amazing egg and all those spicy greens and all that great milk in my coffee. I was in relationship with them, and I was in relationship with their earth and their natural resources and their water and their soil. And not only was I suddenly in relationship with all those people and the places that food came from, they were in relationship with me because I had just paid some money. And that money had gone, partially, to each of these people to help them bring another dozen eggs into the coffee shop. And I thought this was a good example of the way that I think that all of us can be part of a food system, and it's what I'm going to talk about today. But not only then was I in relationship with them, and they were in relationship with me, but I now have their farmland and their food as part of me, physically. Forever. It's becoming part of my cells, part of my hair, part of my eyes. It's part of me, and I think that this is almost like this mystical connection that perhaps Thomas Merton was talking about. I mean, he was Catholic. We do know about communion, right? So it's a very interesting thing, and it's a little bit out there, but those were the thoughts that were crossing my mind as I was getting ready then for this talk today. And it's sort of what I want to do, I think, first then is introduce you to a little bit of me and my family and where I'm coming from on this. So this is a little collage. I might as well sort of tell you who's who here, since they gave me one of these. That's my mom. She's an Italian-American immigrant. She's first generation, grew up in Chicago, spoke Italian growing up. The middle picture is Henry, right there, my brother, who I'll tell you a lot more about shortly. And these are some of our interns and family members. So some of Henry's kids, that's Aozora, her name means blue sky in Japanese, Kazami, one who sees the wind. And the other brother here, Asa, you can't really see him. So Henry and his wife Hiroko, who's from Japan, have 3 children, and they all work on the farm, as well as me and my brothers and sisters. I'm one of 6 siblings. We're not always there. And then my dad, who spent his entire career teaching genetics at Illinois State University, but Dad was from a farm in central Illinois. He was born on the same farm, in the same room of the same farmhouse that his father was born in. So it was my great-grandparents and my grandparents, and my father grew up there, and now my little sister and her kids live there. So it's a 5th-generation Illinois family farm, which is something we're not seeing a whole lot of these days. It seems like a lot are ending at the 4th generation. And so we have a few interns. We have Matt, who's been working, he's an artist, he's been working with us for about 10 years now. And so Henry's farm, and we'll see some pictures a little later, is quite small, very diverse, and feeds a lot of people. And I'll tell you more about all of that in a moment. And when I was also preparing for this talk, I realized, since I was going to see Aldo Leopold's shack, that Aldo Leopold has been part of my life too, because my dad was a huge fan of Aldo Leopold and kept Sam County Almanac next to his bed, sort of like some people keep the Bible. And so when I wrote this book, Seasons on Henry's Farm, which takes you through 52 weeks, each chapter is a week of life on a very small, diverse family farm. I wrote a little bit about Aldo Leopold, and I thought I would read just a teeny bit because I was just there yesterday. And this part of the book starts in November. Does anybody have any idea why I would start this book in November? A book about farming. Harvest was a good suggestion. What was the other one?
I was going to say it's the end of the season.
It's the end, but it's also the beginning. They may know what we plant in November.
Garlic.
Winter wheat, that was good. Yeah, we do plant a bunch of cover crops leading up to that. But we do plant the first vegetable for the next year.
Garlic.
Garlic. I think she's read the book. So we do put garlic in the ground, and we put it in right when we think it's going to get very cold in the next few weeks, because we want it to go into dormancy. We don't want it to start coming up, but we want the roots to start going down, and then we want it to shut down for the winter, so that it'll start growing first thing in early March. But anyway, so the book starts in November, and the little bit I'm going to read is actually from December, near the winter solstice. A few lackadaisical Canada geese fly overhead late one evening. Their calls echo out above the soft crackle of the fire as Henry, Hiroko, and their children, Asa, Aozora, and Kazami, sit around the wood stove reading. In mid to late December, after the seed orders have all been sent off, Henry asks me for books. And I should say the seed orders, when we say seed orders, we mean from about 38 different catalogs, and we mean about 655 varieties of seeds at last count. I don't know what he did this year, actually. So if you count line items, all the different varieties, it's about 655 different varieties of vegetables, and you'll see a few pictures later. Not of all of them. But, so Henry asks me for books. I look over my shelves through classic literature, modern poetry, and recent nonfiction, and I pick up an armload of possibilities for him. One winter, he devoured all my Virginia Woolf, and later Septimus Smith from Mrs. Dalloway crept into his writings about taste and nutrition. Another year, he read every recent book on genetically modified organisms, including Vandana Shiva's first-hand knowledge of their impact on poor farmers in India. I'll go on a bit. He spent part of one winter on multiple biographies of totalitarian leaders, Mao, Stalin, Lenin, and Hitler. Last year, Henry read the Bible top to bottom. This year, he's revisiting Dostoevsky and rereading Aldo Leopold's work, heartened by his strong, clear writing, and disheartened that we have progressed so little that Leopold's writing